This is the second video in the series covering the Eclipse IPD Builder for S1000D, and it covers a suggested spreadsheet which is used to contain the data for each IPD data module. And the structure of these files is what is being used to map the schema to the spreadsheet. This video is going to cover an example spreadsheet to give you a feeling for what is required in the spreadsheet, and then we're going to look at the various areas of that spreadsheet: the data module code, IDStatus, figure and parts list area, and then we'll conclude with some various comments which may help you later on. The spreadsheet that you can see here is just an example, and it only contains a small amount of the actual IPD data itself. But what it does do is to contain at the top the various fields that are required to create the IPD data module ID and status areas, as well as the information for the figure. And we're going to look at each one of those areas in more detail. The area that we're going to look at first of all is the area which contains the data module code, and this was contained right at the very top of the spreadsheet. And what you'll see here is that the very top of the spreadsheet contains the titles of all the actual elements or attributes which contain the data module code. The top is included for identification purposes because we won't actually map that information, but it's to help you when you actually do the mapping to understand what is contained in there. It aids identification, and it's the data cells, to repeat that, it's the data cells themselves which are mapped when you come to do the mapping. The next section down in the spreadsheet is the status area. And as you can see, it contains information like the security information, responsible partner company, the originator, and the applicability cross-reference table, data module code, and other bits like that. You can put more in than this. Clearly you would then map it because we're mapping it to the schema. But this is information, the minimum information that's required for the status area. This is the third area of the spreadsheet, and it contains purely figure information. So you can see that it's identified as the figure area, and the next cell is the bicycle, which is the title of the figure, and the next area is the next cell is the CGM file or other file. It's the figure that you require for the actual IPD. This is now the fourth and last area of the spreadsheet. As you can see, it contains a row which contains column titles, and this is the actual parts data itself. And underneath this is as many lines as are required for the actual parts list itself. So you just identify the actual columns themselves. The spreadsheet that you've got requires to be saved in the .csv format. It gives you a much more generic spreadsheet layout. And for most spreadsheet programs, like for example Excel, you just do the save as function. So I've just demonstrated it here on the slide, and we can see that we've gone to other formats, save as, other formats, and then we've then chosen the .csv format, comma separated area, and we just save it like that, and it's then directly suitable for use with the IPD Builder. So we've seen a spreadsheet, and we've provided separate videos to demonstrate the mapping of the data module code, status, figure and parts list areas of the spreadsheet to the schema. Clearly you only need to do that once, but of course it does mean that it's essential that all the spreadsheets used in conjunction with a particular mapping file have the same layout. You're given the option to choose the mapping file as you work through when you're going to do a build. What we've shown here also is a sort of spreadsheet which contains the minimum amount of information for the ID and status areas, and in fact when it gets built, it'll build straight away. If you don't wish to have all the data mapped, then you naturally need, at build time, you need to put it in, and windows are put up on the screen to enable you to insert the essential data. However, it's possible to have just, for example, a parts list which contains a spreadsheet which just contains the parts list information. But then, of course, you've got to think about entering all the information in the ID and status area. And that, of course, the problem comes then with things, particularly with the data module code, which is very complex, and getting something wrong there would be very easy indeed. So the spreadsheet that we've demonstrated here is pretty well the minimum that's required to make sure you get a build without actually having to do any extra information entrance. This is the end of this short video about the spreadsheet, its structure, and the sort of information that you should really try to put in. We've provided further videos for actually how you map the various parts of the IPD data module and the build function itself, and those are available here.